talk about some of the books by Christopher Buckley, a contemporary author who's mostly known for his political satires. I think it's a body of work just about unique in U.S. literature. He's done like 9, 10 of these things, and he's been doing them for, 35 years. I think the first one came out in 1986. So yeah, almost 40 years. Christopher Buckley, the person, is the son of Patricia Buckley and William F. Buckley. William F. Buckley, of course, was a major figure in sort of U.S., I don't know, I don't want to say political life exactly, PR for politics life, punditry. He was a major U.S. pundit for a long time. And his son took the family business in a really fun new direction. Uh, Buckley knew the world that he's mocking pretty well. He was, aside from being William F. Buckley's son and presumably meeting many people who were in U.S. political life, he was a speechwriter for the first George Bush when he was president, and has written various articles over the years for magazines. He's written a few other novels, like some historical novels and a spy novel or two. He's written some nonfiction about his family. I'm going to talk here, though, about his satires because it's really fun to have a skilled humor writer, period. I can't help but feel that comedic writing, especially in fiction, is really underperformed, underachieved. No one tries it. There doesn't seem to be a market for it. There just doesn't seem to be the people's sense of humor seems to be distinct enough. I'll put it that way, that it's hard to find commercially successful writers. There seems to be something about humor writing that goes away from just writing a book. Maybe there's more money to be made, more success to be had in writing TV, movies, just like other things. But it seems like even before that, there was simply a shortage of funny writers who could reach a wide audience. Not completely, of course, but just considering how much people like comedy, I don't know, I would have thought there'd be more. And the people there are writing funny books usually don't write whole novels. It's a lot of short stories. It's a lot of short pieces. I'm thinking here of, Dorothy Parker, Steve Martin. You usually don't get a whole funny novel, which is not the case. It doesn't have to be the case. The novel can support a whole comedy. Certainly many, many people have done it. So I don't know why this feels like a lacuna. Isn't that a fun word? Lacuna. This feels like a lacuna in U.S. publishing. In any case, I really value these books. I haven't read all of them because I want to save them up. But the first one was called The White House Mess, and the most recent one was called Make Russia Great Again. And Buckley really has it all put together. He knows like the length of a book. He knows how to hold and release comedic tension. He knows how to build the plot to support the various comedic situations, and it's genuine satire. There are occasionally moments of farce, but it is intended to sort of provide a humorous comment on the real world. The White House Mess and Make Russia Great Again both use the premise of being like a diary of the White House chief of staff to a president, to great humorous effect, and some of the others are structured more like traditional narratives, but they usually begin with the books all have a certain common features. And I want to. There are different ways to write a satire, and Buckley has a certain way of writing the satire, which I think is worth talking about. The elements of society that you find laughable and the stories that you notice in our society, which you then exaggerate for satirical effect, um, they tell you a lot about a person, or about a writer's point of view, or at least about how they're able to see things, and the protagonist of the Buckley satires is that person who started off believing in something and trying to make a difference and wandered into this swamp of special interests and realpolitik and an uncaring and unforgiving public environment. It's kind of like the tales of a naive person. To some extent, it's like a sentimental education kind of story where the person someone comes to DC usually to make a difference and to help out, and they find that the work they're actually being asked to do is either trivial or unimportant, or which are different, or uh, or exactly not what they would like to do, or simply in service of someone's ego, or being twisted into a shape that they would not approve of, and that at some point this will like directly threaten something they really really value, like their relationships or their freedom or their life occasionally, and then they have to sort of wriggle their way out of it using their now deeper understanding of just how ridiculous and irresponsible a world that they live in. So a useful comparison might be with the Frank Capra movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is about a political naif who goes to Washington with high ideals and beliefs, and has a program that he would like to get enacted, and discovers just how fully impossible that is. But he rebels, and he provokes a crisis of conscience in one of his fellows, which allows for the possibility of genuine change and reform. So that one is more of a hero's tale. It's almost a tragedy because Mr. Smith is almost destroyed, but at the last minute, it is a Hollywood movie. The possibility of a better future is held out. Buckley does not hold out that possibility. Buckley's satires are along the lines of like, people get these ideas, they set out to do something, and they don't realize just how impossible that is and how screwed they and all of us are. And this is the kind of satire which, because it's so unremitting, it can be extremely funny because he can take it in so many different ways. There's nothing that's off the table here. And the characters usually realize this. They're not they're not literally dumb people. Sometimes they're very blissfully unaware, but more often they realize this partway through the book, and they sort of throw up their hands because they've started some kind of juggernaut that they no longer even can pretend to have an influence on, let alone control, and now they're just gonna try to hang on for the ride and not get destroyed. Um, so in Boomsday, for example, a Gen X character who comes up with an idea, which is for the government to offer tax breaks to boomers who agree to be euthanized on the grounds that by leaving this life early, they will save the government money on Social Security and Medicare, and so we can afford to incentivize it. If we can remove some of the boomers, we could, we can pay down the debt or what have you. And she presses this out of a sense of aggrieved passion on behalf of her generation. But about halfway through, she realizes she's sort of unleashed Pandora's box, and gives in to the destructive forces that she's unleashed in Supreme Courtship. The president, in an effort to sort of make the Supreme Court more relatable to average Americans, appoints a TV judge, like the equivalent of Judge Judy, to the Supreme Court in the hope that she will sort of, humanize them a little bit and make common sense decisions again. And she, does her best, but she's sort of like brought in the whirlwind of the Supreme Court and taken over by its its prior history and its reputation, and winds up just becoming more of the same. So there's a general impression, and this is something that most people can identify with and find very funny when it's exaggerated, which is that people are merciless. Merciless. People are merciless, but that's not the word I meant to say. People are helpless. People are helpless in the grip of larger events, and they have passion, and they have aggrievedness, and they have goals, and they have dreams, which get them going, and sort of give them something to start with, but that at some point, the world and its various forces, existing institutions, self-interest, realpolitik, will take that original sort of bright, shining innocence or crusading on the path of virtue, and will force them to make compromises, to temper their demands, and to make their best of a bad situation, which in Buckley's world, since this is a comedy, often means finding someone that they can, sleep with, finding some kind of like romance in a mixed up and difficult world, finding a little comfort from another person. Buckley's books are often could be taken, if there was a message. I mean, I don't want to overspeak the message, but they are satires. They're not just complete crazy nonsense, but his message is often, don't look to happiness, don't look to the public square for happiness. Don't look for happiness privately, and just pray that the world leaves you alone. Do your job and all, but do not look for the world to meet your needs, because it won't. It will use you for what it needs and then throw you aside and maybe destroy you. That's roughly the formula of his books, addressed to different aspects of the U.S. political scene. And this is not, this is not necessarily wrong. It does tend to leave out the possibility of finding fulfillment in public life, which many people clearly find some fulfillment of it, and find worth in doing their duty and in making a difference, even if things don't turn out just as they would like. But I imagine that a lot of people who are doing their jobs and doing their work can read these books and sympathize with the characters pretty deeply. They can sympathize with their sense of being just small cogs in these large institutional machines. They can sympathize with the seeming random and wayward nature of public opinion about their work or their causes. They can sympathize with the unexpected ignorance and just poor thinking in high places. Poor thinking is a good code word for stupidity, right? I thought that was good. There's a lot of pieces in these comedy that people can be like, they can look at the exaggerated form of it and think, oh, there's something there. There's something real there that he's got down on the page. And he also has a knack for finding satirical targets that really should appeal to people regardless of their particular political stances. Buckley's he he's on the right. I mean, as you might expect from William F. Buckley's son and the speechwriter for George Bush, but he's not crazy. He's not. He's like, he's like on the right that sort of like gives the government the side eye when it proposes something, but doesn't automatically think that it's evil. He worries about paying bills. He doesn't want to like destroy checks and balances. He just wants debts to be paid and would like people to, maybe not, maybe not fight each other quite so hard. And that's very, very nice right now, comparatively. Reading Make Russia Great Again in 2020 was a wonderful experience because um, Trump is a character and Buckley zooms in on the Russia thing as a target that should be risible to anyone, even if they support Trump. You should be able to read this and find the Russia stuff pretty funny. And I really admire the skill it takes to do that comedically, to find the premises that will get around people's own personal things, encourage them to just, set that aside for a minute and let's have a laugh all about this. And he showed off a lot of skill there. There's probably no better writer of political satire in novel form in U.S. history than Christopher Buckley. So do check them out. I've been saving a few to read later, but the best so far for me have been Make Russia Great Again, the White House Mess, his first one. I just really enjoy fictional diaries as a form for comedy. It's so funny. And then possibly the best one is Little Green Men, which I think came out in about 2003, 2004, and deals with sort of American conspiracy theories about government and aliens, and it's great. I mean, it's really an impressive piece of long form comedic writing. And if anyone ever wanted to make it into a movie, I would be very happy. And I'd like to suggest Steve Carell in the role of the lead character. Okay, that was fun. Enjoy. Christopher Buckley. Bye now.